This is going to be the most awesome video ever!
So what am I doing? Hey, everybody, come on! Really? Thanks for joining me.
What are you filming for?
Let's talk about expectations. Much as we might not like to admit it, expectations can and do shape our opinions and, yes, even our value judgments on stories. I don't even think it's really something we can help entirely. It's just kind of part of the value judgment that we make. The fond memories that we might have or the hype that's been built up is just one of the factors that we use in judging stories. It is interesting to look at how these expectations manifest themselves though, and broadly speaking I think they manifest themselves in three ways. The first way? Hype. Hype can kill a popular story. This is when the media and fans and other people who have experienced this story in some way give you overinflated expectations of what that story is going to be like. Sometimes these expectations become so overinflated that the story can't possibly hope to live up to them. Take, for example, the Harry Potter series. The thing about the Harry Potter fandom is that it wasn't just born purely out of the quality of the series. I mean, that was a big part of it, but it was also born out of the community that formed around Harry Potter. And it was also born around the fact that we grew up with these characters and we have fond memories of waiting in anticipation for the next novel to come out so we can find out what happened. Though that's nostalgia, and that's the next thing that I'll talk about. But the thing is, the original hype of the series, the original passion and some might say obsession of the fandom can never be recaptured. I think with popular stories there's sometimes almost a backlash that is due to this because people build up the hype so much that the story can't possibly live up to the hype, and so people that go to see it new don't understand what all the fuss is about. But there can also be negative hype. For instance, I recently watched the Twilight movie for the Twilight Books vs. Movies review. Twilight's a bad movie, and I went into it expecting it to be a bad movie. And wouldn't you know it, it met my expectations, and I was actually sort of entertained by its horribleness. But somebody else that I know went to see the Twilight movie with high expectations and was deeply disappointed. That's part of the reason why I'm glad I went to see Inception with virtually no expectations, because I was able to just sit and enjoy the story itself without the stigma of all the different hype that was going on with that movie. The second way in which expectations manifest themselves? Nostalgia. Nostalgia is a powerful thing. And when I say nostalgia, I'm talking good memories and bad memories. Positive nostalgia and negative nostalgia. And you might not think of that as nostalgia, but I'm going to lump it in with the same word. The memories that we form in experiencing a story, whether it be a book, a movie, or a TV show, definitely influence our judgment on that story. As I already said, we all have fond memories of reading Harry Potter, and that influences what we think about it, and somebody coming into the series new doesn't have those same memories. Conversely, there can also be negative nostalgia. For example, I've had a lot of people tell me that they hate To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, which is one of my all-time favorite novels, and in fact one of the novels on my ultimate recommendation list. But upon closer questioning, I found that they don't hate the novel so much as they hate the memories associated with reading the novel. Mostly because they had a crappy English teacher who forced them to read it, and so they decided they were going to hate it out of spite. And in that case, I usually tell them to read the novel again with fresh eyes. But it's possible that even if they do read the novel again without the influence of that bad English teacher, they're never going to forget those memories, and so they're always going to have that negative stigma associated with that novel. Which is why we desperately need to get rid of bad English teachers. And finally, the third thing, predictions. This is especially prevalent in long and popular series like, once again, Harry Potter. At a certain point in a long and popular series, people become so invested in the characters and the plot and in everything that's going on that they start to make predictions of what's going to happen next. And so when you get to the final culminating novel of the series where everything is supposed to come together and everything is supposed to conclude in a satisfying manner, sometimes it doesn't live up to those predictions. Another good example of this, the Hunger Games trilogy. Now, I happen to think that Mockingjay was a very good concluding novel for the Hunger Games trilogy. But a lot of people disagree with me, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I think a lot of those people disagree with me because the book didn't conclude in the way that they predicted that it was going to conclude. In other words, the story was so investing and so engaging, both of which are good things, that people started to write, either consciously or unconsciously, their own endings to the story. And Suzanne Collins, because she's, the author, decided to end it differently. And so people who wanted the main character to end up with a certain other character were disappointed that she didn't end up with that certain other character. But I'm not going to say that that's true for anybody, and I'm not even going to pass judgment on people who do think that, because, you can't help it. It's one of the wonderful things about storytelling, is predicting the ending and how things are going to turn out. It's just really dangerous when something becomes so popular that people think that this is the way that it has to end. So our expectations can be really, really powerful things. And I actually think that considering those expectations is one of the things that separates just a regular opinion from a real critical review. In my last Story Talk video, I talked about the importance of balancing objectivity with your own personal opinions whenever you're reviewing a story. And I think that keeping those expectations in mind is a really good way to maintain that element of objectivity. Expectations have a powerful influence on opinions, and it's important to keep that in mind and try not to let them influence your opinion too much. To consider a story for what it is and maybe not what you hope it might be. But as always, I am eager to hear your opinions on the matter. What do you think about expectations, about hype and nostalgia, and predictions and the influence that they have on storytelling? Let me know in comments. I look forward to the discussion that will ensue. And until next time, this is Matt Guyon reminding you to watch out for glowing, blinking eyeballs. Ugh. So did I live up to your expectations? Was this the most awesome video ever? I didn't think so.